Chance of showers. I'm Brian Leonard with your on-point local weather. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Don't you forget, pressing the button can also be enjoyable for you.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornbluth, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
And a very pleasant good Wednesday to you, and welcome inside Sports Talk Media Network here all across the state of South Carolina. Chris Bergen here in Florence, Pat Daniel handling things down in our Columbia studios, and hopefully the Corn will join us here in just a bit. We certainly have room for you over the next couple of hours on an extremely busy Wednesday on the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number at 888-898-2525. Again, 888-898-2525. We've got a very busy show planned for you here this evening. We'll lay that out in just a couple of moments, but the big story of the day, at least with regards to South Carolina athletics, and I'm not talking about the university, but it certainly affected the University of South Carolina, is the fact that Gigi Jackson, the top flight player here in our state for the next round of recruiting in 2023, Gigi Jackson has committed to North Carolina, not South Carolina, as he announced a bit earlier today. So my question is it Frank Martin's fault that, again, one of the top players in our state left the state to go to North Carolina, even though he's no longer the head coach at USC? Of course, you know that was always the problem, and certainly some of the criticism was that Frank Martin was unable to keep top flight players, especially in Columbia, in state, and he let them get out of state. So the question is, Phil Kornbluth, as you sit down and join us here tonight, is it Frank Martin's fault still that Gigi Jackson is not a Gamecock and instead he's a Tar Heel?
That's a loaded question. Chicken curse. I believe in the chicken curse. Things they do come back to haunt them. But then again, if you're Ray Tanner and you're weighing if you're weighing keeping Frank Martin when you want to make a change, but for the purpose of trying to get a top flight player who won't be with you until the 23 season. Remember that now.
Right.
So that means keeping Frank with the hopes that it would go well next year, and then you would get this young man, and then you might only have him for a year. And so I guess Ray Tanner, knowing that situation, must have figured that in weighing all the options, it just wasn't worth it. It just wasn't worth staying with someone that he did not want to stay with just for the sake of getting a player who may or may not come in and turn the program around. It's unfortunate for South Carolina that it worked out that way, because here's a very talented young man once again leaving the state. But it's just so hard, Chris, as we're seeing year after year for South Carolina, Clemson, and they're not alone. There's a lot of schools, a lot of major state basketball programs that have great players in their backyard who can't keep them because they want to go play for Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, the select few that can attract those players year after year. And you try to, of course, play on their home state loyalties and all that, and some of that does come into play. And I do think that if Frank Martin had not been fired as the coach of South Carolina, that they probably would have gotten Gigi Jackson. That was the feeling I got from talking to some people over at the press conference today. Gigi said he never did commit to South Carolina. But I think that maybe the handwriting was on the wall had things not changed at South Carolina, because it was after that happened that his mind really shifted toward North Carolina. And then North Carolina made the very strategic move of coming to see him the week of the Final Four. And he was really impressed with the fact that they came to see him when they've got the Final Four coming up. And that really left a very big impression on him. So, but besides that, Chris, we talked about the Coastal player who was visiting South Carolina, and now he's a Gamecock.
Ibrahim Adiba, no doubt about it. Before we get to Diva, though, I want to ask you a different question. Maybe, as you pointed out, it's a loaded question. If Frank Martin is still the head coach in South Carolina, first off, does Gigi Jackson commit today? And secondly, in your opinion, would he have committed to USC or would he have still gone to North Carolina?
Well, again, I think I might have answered that a minute ago. I think he would have gone to South Carolina, and I think that he might have done it sooner. You know, if the change had not have happened, and he was going to go to South Carolina, I think he would have done it weeks ago, because it would have been, and he might have even gone ahead and reclassified for 22. That being the case, you know, who knows? There's a lot of what ifs and who knows and speculation. But I think the feeling was from some of the people I talked to over there today was that if things had not changed at South Carolina, that's where he would have gone. You know, I think the parents were on board with all that. And from what I gathered, the mom was really tied in with Frank Martin in terms of liking him and liking the program and liking the idea of the son being close to home. Not that Chapel Hill's all that far away. You know, you can get to Chapel Hill 3.5 hours, but you get from where they live out in Northeast Columbia to downtown Columbia in a half hour. So, but yeah, I think if there had not been a change, he probably would be a Gamecock today. But you can't worry about that now because it happened and this happened, and you have to move on. And that's what Lamont Paris did today in getting the commitment from your guy from Coastal Carolina.
Ibrahim Adiba, and as I pointed out last night, 6'6" point guard. They're so rare in college basketball anymore. And Ebo is one of the, and again, I say Ebo because that's the nickname he has been attached to as long as I've known him. Watching his career for 4 years at Coastal Carolina, one shortchanged because of a knee injury that he suffered during the Myrtle Beach Invitational a few years ago. But if South Carolina was looking for a true point guard, they could not have found a better one than Ibrahim Adiba, because here's a guy who's led the Sun Belt Conference, led the Sun Belt this past season in assists. He's racked up over 100 assists in every season that he's played, that he played a full campaign. He is not going to, and Gamecock fans, he is not going to score 25 points a game. That is not his makeup. He is not going to score 25 a game. He doesn't shoot it all that much, and when he's asked to do, he's okay as a shooter. What he likes to do is be able to get into the lane and create and then open up opportunities for his teammates. He is so unselfish. I've heard the Coastal coaching staff say numerous times they wish he were more selfish. Mm-hmm. And Phil, when's the last time you heard any coach say that about a college player? Because it is so rare to get a college player who does not like to score. But that is what Ibrahim Adiba brings to the table. He is a terrific point guard. He's a terrific facilitator of the basketball. He has court vision unlike anybody you've ever seen. And he is a terrific defender as well because of his size and his length. He creates a lot of problems. I think this is a huge get for Lamont Paris. Go back and watch the South Carolina Coastal game and focus in on number 10. Keep an eye on him the entire ball game, and you'll see exactly what you're getting from him if you're a USC fan. He is not Gigi Jackson. He's not made up like that. But if you're looking for a true point guard in an era where there are very, very few Magic Johnsons anymore, a very, very tall point guard who would much prefer to get everybody else involved than himself, South Carolina has landed on one, and I think that's a huge get for them, especially considering, Phil, he came on a visit the same day that South Carolina actually inked the other guard out of Ohio State, same day. Mm-hmm. They were able to bring him in. And that did not scare Ibrahim off. So I think that speaks a lot to him. And I'm happy for him. Hate it from my perspective of having watched him for 4 seasons at Coastal from a broadcast standpoint. But I am excited from the standpoint that we'll still all get to see him play. Maybe not in Conway, but certainly at South Carolina.
Yeah, poor Coastal. I mean, I feel for the schools like that. Mm-hmm. You've seen it now 2 years in a row. You lost your best player after a season before last in Michigan. Now lose one of the best players this year to South Carolina. I mean, that's the price these mid-major programs pay in this new world of college athletics with the free transfer and all that. And, it's got to drive the coaches at that level crazy because this is a guy that Cliff and his staff recruited out of Sweden
Yep.
and developed. Now, he went to high school in Virginia, I think it was, but he's from Sweden. And you put all your time and effort and money into developing this person. Now, he is a grad transfer. He did spend his 4 years and get his degree from Coastal, but you still like to – I mean, he's going to probably have his best season this year as an older guy. You sure would like to, as a coach, reap the benefits of all your hard work rather than see Lamont Paris benefit from it.
Well, and I think that's probably why Lamont Paris tapped into him, because he understands he's an older player. He'll bring some stability to that role. I would bet, and we all have no idea what their lineup is going to look like going into November, but I would be stunned if Ibrahim Adiba is not the starting point guard for the Gamecocks going into next season. And part of the reason will be, you just pointed out, Phil, he's an older guy. And you look at all the teams around the country, with the exception of Kansas and Duke and heck, I'm not sure I can lump North Carolina into that mix anymore, because their guys are coming back. I think if you track down the top flight programs, it's still because they've got older veteran guards in particular. And South Carolina desperately needs some of that, and I think Ebo brings that to the table.
And then there's Clemson, not to be left out of the fun today. The Tigers get a football commitment, the first on the defensive side, late this afternoon, announcing on CBS HQ, David Ojibe, or you were listening, Chris, is it pronounced Ojibe?
I'm guessing that's the case. I did not actually get a chance to listen in on his commitment. I saw it pop up on Twitter, so I immediately went to the story you had sort of in the archives for us. But my guess is Ojibwe would probably be the way he's pronounced, but I'm sure we'll find it out. Clemson's really good on the football side of getting players that have last names that are nearly impossible to pronounce.
I know. It's really. Sometimes I feel terrible for Don Munson and that crew having to, from Uyangalale to the hardest one ever in the history is Orororo. Orororo. What is it, Pat?
Yes.
Come on. You're the Tiger expert. Orororo?
Orororo.
Sounds like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, do not
but the
ask
nice
me
thing
for
is,
pronunciation.
yeah,
Rook, and it's Rook Orororo, I think it is. But anyway, yeah, they have a mouthful over there. This is another heavily recruited defensive end, 6'3", 235 out of the D.C. area. And he visited Clemson twice in the spring, most recently for the spring game. Give you more details on him in recruiting. One other recruiting note, because it's been a busy recruiting day, and in the portal now is another player who could end up, and will be surprising if he doesn't end up at South Carolina, though he is going to be heavily recruited. He's a former player from UTC. He is the Southern Conference Player of the Year. He's very highly regarded because of his overall skills. In fact, he had his name in the NBA draft, but he did not jeopardize his eligibility by doing anything with an agent, Malachi Smith.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in the portal, John. You would think Lamont Paris in South Carolina would have an excellent chance to get him. This will be his second transfer. He started at Wright State, transferred to UTC. Averaged about 20 points per game this season. Only player in D1 basketball this season with at least 600 points, 200 rebounds, 50 assists, 50 steals, and 50 made three-point field goals. So he's a talent. He is a big-time talent. I would imagine South Carolina's already in touch with him. I would imagine he's already got a visit lined up with South Carolina. And I would imagine that's going to happen here pretty quickly, unless he decides to take a look at bigger, more established programs. But if he loves Lamont Paris and wants to continue playing for his coach, then South Carolina, it will be for him, I would think. Meantime, excuse me. Boy, the Clemson baseball team. They hammered PC last night. Now, we'll probably never get the Wofford to coach on the show again. Clemson is beating Wofford 10-3 in the bottom of the fifth. This Clemson team is a strange, funny team to try to figure out. Tigers have scored in every inning to this point. 2 in the first, 3 in the second, 1 in the third, 4 in the fourth. And they're beating the team with the best RPI in South Carolina and the only ranked team in South Carolina, beating them badly, 10-3. And the Tigers have home runs from Engel and Corbett at this point, and they've used Clayton, Dill, and Olenchuk on the mound. So it's all Clemson. Be a nice way for them to part of this 5-game week for them to win 2 midweek games against the really good in-state competition in PC and Wofford.
Yeah, and this one against Wofford in particular, Phil, will actually help Clemson as much as it would have helped Wofford in terms of RPI boost. And to be able to hammer them the way they are right now, and there's still plenty of baseball left to go, but you feel like you're in pretty good shape if you're Clemson, especially the way their bullpen has performed throughout the season. Now, again, how much do you want to use it if you're Monty Lee? But you don't want to let a 7-run lead get away from you, and they're still threatening with more opportunities in the bottom of the 5th with 2 on and 2 outs. So Clemson has flipped a switch. I don't know where Monty Lee, maybe it was as simple as putting the jersey number 99 on Caden Grice. And ever since they've turned the corner here. But I think that 2 out of 3 against Florida State may loom large for them moving forward. I think that may have been the turning point for them. They finally got a conference series win against a quality opponent. Not that the Wake Forest victory was not the same 2 weeks ago, but they always beat Wake Forest in baseball. That's sort of been the stereotype with them. But for them to be able to take 2 out of 3 from Florida State this past weekend and contain some momentum here, this is a team that is peaking at the right time. Tail end of April on into May. This is when you want to be playing some of your best baseball. And if Clemson can carry it on, they're going to be a tough team going into the ACC tournament, it appears.
And guys, a stat that typically goes unnoticed, but I want to bring attention to it. Wofford was 3rd in the country entering today with 117 stolen bases on the season. They are 0 for 3 on the day. They've been thrown out 3 times by Clemson catcher Cooper Ingle, and each of those runners would have put Wofford in scoring position. So those have all been very key outs for the Tigers to help keep Wofford at this point out of the game.
Well, that this was a game that was thrown together because of earlier rainouts. So. Yeah, it's a midweek game that wasn't originally on the schedule, and you're right. This could really benefit Clemson by beating a top 10 RPI team if this lead holds. And it looks like right now it's in good shape for the Tigers. We are jam-packed tonight with all the recruiting. Bring you a little G.G. Jackson. Mike Morgan coming up at the bottom of the hour. He'll be on the call for USC Alabama, 2 of those games, so he'll have some thoughts on that. And we're going to talk some NFL draft with an NFL draft expert, friend of ours, coming up in the second hour. Also, Todd Knight, Newberry football coach, to recap their spring practice, which ended last weekend. What more could you want on a Wednesday night edition of Sports Talk? We're back in a moment.
I'm not like some whoop-de-doo executive chef. I consider myself more of a baker than a chef. I like working with my hands. I like turning regular ingredients into like something spectacular.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has funded over 450,000 life scholarships in our state, giving countless students a chance to answer their calling, just like Aaron. Your passion is our purpose.
Sports fans, are you in it to win it? Join South Carolina's fight against COVID-19 by getting your vaccine today. Vaccines are safe and will help stabilize school operations by bringing us back together safely. The CDC recommends everyone 5 years and older get vaccinated. Visit scdhec.gov/VaxLocator or call 866-365-8110 to find a vaccination station near you.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams, and you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to FutureScholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. FutureScholar.com.
Phone number on Sports Talk, 888-898-2525. Since 2002, more than 2.1 million lottery-funded scholarships, such as Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellow scholarships, have been awarded to South Carolina students. Learn more about the South Carolina Education Lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/educationwins. Playing for fun, is a win for education. We're going to hear from David Tepper, owner of the Panthers, tonight here on Sports Talk as well. And so what?
I said, do we have to?
Oh, yeah.
Listening to him, that guy is totally clueless. For a guy who is relatively smart in terms of business, listening to him try and talk about NFL, he's it's aggravating. I mean, he's sat there and tried to sell us on the fact that Sam Darnold is a top flight quarterback. Anyone who watches the Panthers knows that Sam Darnold has got to be replaced. Now, is it a situation where the owner doesn't want to throw his quarterback under the bus? Maybe so. But to sit there and try and say during a press conference going into the draft that you're confident in the guy you have, who led you to 5 wins this past season, it just boggles the mind. He also gave Matt Rule the great vote of confidence going into this upcoming season too. So probably expect the Panthers to be looking for a new coach after next year.
Or halfway through. Greg DePalma from Our Lads will be joining us a little after 7 o'clock. Our Lads is one of the longest running leading experts on the NFL draft. For over 40 years, they have covered the NFL draft. They do a great job, and Greg is one of their experts, and he'll be with us a little bit after 7 o'clock. Our buddy Jimmy Coggins from WKDK in Newberry informs us that Newberry shortstop Braylon Marine is the South Atlantic Conference Baseball Player of the Year. So, way to go. Way to get it done. Let's go to Hank here in Columbia. First up tonight, we'll try and take as many calls as we can as we work in and work through everybody. Hank, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Corn.
Good.
Yeah. First of all, Corn, I really believe that. I think Jackson, North Carolina, was his dream school. I think we were about as close to him as we were to getting Seventh Woods. I think it was a lot of him feeling good and like in the school, but I just don't think that we had enough success to pull him from.
You mean
North
even
Carolina.
if Frank had not been fired, you think if things had stayed the same, they would not have gotten him? In your opinion, you think if nothing had changed, you still don't think they'd get him?
Absolutely. There's a conversation for another time.
That would be a surprise to a lot of people. And I mean, I talked to people in that gym today who are around him every day. I didn't ask anybody on the record. I was just asking for my own interest. I said, "Hey, where do you think?" And South Carolina was basically the answer I got everywhere I turned.
I don't think. I think later. I think later if you have a interview with him and speak really with the parents, I think you're going to find that South Carolina was fighting to get into the scrum, but I think North Carolina was the leader wire to wire. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you have an interview with him, I think you'll come back and say, "Hey, I think you're right." But I will, Corn. I listen. I wanted to ask you, I guess, a question. Who do you think was the biggest culprit for the NIL going so wild as it is now?
Explain what you mean by culprit. What do you mean by culprit?
Well,
the driving force? You mean who's the driving force behind it?
Not so driving force, because anytime something starts, then it gets to going crazy. Who is the person that, I mean, you could have NIL and it not be as crazy as it is now. But I think the guy that's being ushered out the door at the NCAA is the one that really messed it up. Because as you said the other night, there were chances when ESPN came in and started getting those TV contracts, and they started letting kids start playing games at 11 o'clock in the morning and some games starting at 9 o'clock at night. That was a problem. When they started with the Madden, and instead of just having like South Carolina and some bland guy with a number on it, they started in the Madden where you'd have the clowny on the back of the jersey, and you had these facial recognitions.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can imagine. I can sum it up very simply. I mean, if you're going to go down that road, and I don't disagree with you, I think Emmert is universally despised by people who love college sports for what he allowed to have happen under his watch, which was way too long and way too expensive. The guy was you talk about being overpaid. My God.
He's making $3 million a year.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But,
$3 million a year
before him, those that ran college sports sold their souls to the almighty dollar. And eventually It might have taken 30-something years, going back into the 80s when everything started to shift from just the one network to multiple networks. And then, then you got your noon games and your 3 o'clock windows and all these different windows, then your 11 o'clock games. When they started selling out the television and the television dollars, everything else followed, and you knew eventually it was going to come to this at some point. Be right back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cool this evening with low temps dipping down to 49. If you're enjoying today, you'll love tomorrow with a lower pollen count. A sky filled with sunshine and a high temperature of 78. Friday, we're up to 81 with more sun than clouds, while the weekend has a mix of sun and clouds and a 30% chance of showers. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather. When you're a military veteran with over 40,000 organizations trying to help you, it can be hard to find the right information. That's why AARP brings together valuable resources to help you navigate your options. AARP.org/veterans. With the free veteran employment and fraud prevention resources, caregiving tools, and access to discounts, AARP, on a mission to support veterans. Visit AARP.org/veterans today.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I'll tell you, I'm a tough case. I am 91 years old, and I'm amazed. That's why I'm doubling my order. I tried about 30 different supplements, and this is the most amazing product I have ever tried. I am very delighted with it. You may give me another 10 years on this earth. It's a miracle for me.
Get a wide variety of all your daily recommended servings of whole fruits and vegetables without having to leave your home. Right now, Balance of Nature is offering free shipping and 35% off on any new preferred order. Call 800-2468-751. That's 800-2468-751. Or by going to balanceofnature.com and make sure to receive this special radio offer by using discount code BALANCE.
If you're like me, you're sick and tired of seeing these old TV stars, game show hosts, these athletes telling you how to save money on your Medicare and on your health insurance. These national toll-free numbers are overwhelming us. It's not that people don't need the service. They need good local customer service, not big box toll-free numbers. See, I work directly with Tim Hanberry right here at Medicare Blueprint in the Midlands. When it comes to my family, I want the best family plan. I'm not even on Medicare, but my mom is. So here's what I do want. Someone local to serve as my advisor on the plans and choices that I have, and someone to help mom with her Medicare. I want someone to help me pick the right plan, save me as much money as possible by knowing all the rules of the game. Medicare Blueprint starts the process with you. They will see it through. They answer all your questions. They call you back. It's the same folks helping you start to finish. Tim and his team are independent. They fight for you, not the insurance company. Online, it's MedicareBlueprint.com or call them. 708-7398.
Hi, Chris Neely here from the South Carolina Public Charter School District. Join me every Tuesday afternoon at 5:30 with Kev as we put our kids first. We'll answer all your questions about charter schools in the Palmetto State. Kids first, every Tuesday afternoon at 5:30 on The Point.
Everyone knows that here at The Point, we are all about supporting local businesses. We are all about local, local, local. You cannot get more local than my friend Greg McCoy and his business, Simplified Mortgage Solutions. Fran Halloran here. If you're buying a home or you're looking to refinance your current home, you owe it to yourself to call Greg. He is the real deal. You can expect Greg to treat you like you are his only client. You can expect Greg to scour the market to find you the best rate available. You can expect Greg to charge you a fair price for his work and his service. Why would you deal with some national company headquartered in who knows where when you can do business with Greg? Need further persuasion? Okay, I didn't even mention the good Greg does in our community by supporting local charities like Blue Star Mothers and Camp Chemo. Come on, you need to call Greg. Online at simplifiedmortgagesc.com, or you can call Greg at 803-722-6044. That's 722-6044.
When you think about spring, good stuff springs to mind. You know, like spring break. Woohoo! A friend springing for drinks.
Thanks, dude.
A spring in your step. spring fever.
Oh, behave.
And best of all, spring water dough pizza from the Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers.
Yeah, baby.
Experience the taste of spring with our amazing hand-tossed pies, spring fresh salads, and over 100 beers from around the world. Enjoy spring at the Mellow Mushroom in the Vista and on Sunset in Lexington.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
We're back on Sports Talk Media Network on a jam-packed Wednesday. We got a lot to unpack. Tell you real quick that Clemson now leads Wofford at the end of 5, 15-3. 15-3. Tigers with a 5-run fifth on top of a 4-run fourth, a 3-run second, a 2-run first, single run in the third. They've got 13 hits. Wofford's committed 3 errors. Chris, you think the Terriers felt a little bit – I mean, it's a midweek game, but you know, they've been hyped up. They're number 10 RPI. They're ranked. I think maybe they felt they're pressing. They're feeling the pressure a little bit of being in the limelight of Clemson.
Interesting question. You wouldn't think so. I mean, I would think that Wofford has, but considering they're just getting blown out today, you'd have to go that route. I'm assuming that means that Clemson will score 6 runs in the 6th now, right?
No.
Because they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 already on the board. And by the way, Max Wagner, and you Tiger fans again, can thank us here at Sports Talk. He has hit 7 home runs since we talked to Monty Lee about him last Thursday. So, yeah, I'm taking full credit on this program for getting, and not that he was in a slump, but helping continue some outstanding play from Max Wagner now at the plate.
Question for the Tigers is, I mean, they're going to be up around 30 wins here. Can they win enough ACC games? I mean, they have really got to clamp down on the rest of their ACC schedule because right now, like we've talked about, they're on the outside looking into the tournament, but they've got enough games to win enough games to securely gain a spot and then go on from there. In the meantime, South Carolina, I think it's RIP DOA on their baseball season now as we welcome in Man on the Move, MOV. We're going to all talk in what's the word I'm looking for? We're going to use nothing but help me.
Acronym?
There you go. Nothing but acronyms. Man on the Move, MOV, big man on campus, Mike Morgan, Eminem, on the move here on Sports Talk. I don't know how I got myself boxed into all this on this Wednesday night because he's busy. You get on Thursday. In fact, Mike's coming to Columbia. He's taking us all out for lunch tomorrow, the entire Sports Talk crew. So, Chris, come on into town and join us for that. It'll be on Mike's nickel or dime.
Seawells, right?
Wherever Mike wants to take us, from Seawells on up to Hall's Chop House, whatever his choice is. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I think what got you a little bit stifled was you're still hanging on that Indiana Purdue Wesleyan score. I think we're in the 5th inning, and they have just gone to the bullpen. It's 2-2, and you know when these two teams meet, you can throw away the record. So let's make sure we get everybody up to speed on that. Sack fly 3-2. 3-2 now.
Well, actually,
Purdue Wesleyan.
Western Carolina is leading PC 3-2 in the 4th.
Well, hey, there you go. It's a popular score.
It is. North Carolina on top of Liberty 8-1 in the 8th.
And by the way, I will not be able to buy anybody a meal because I won't be there because, like many of our broadcasts this year.
Oh, no.
Yes, this will be from Studio B. This will not be on site.
You know, I just read a story in the Washington Post, I think it was, where they were slamming the networks for the individual major league teams who are still not sending their crews on the road.
Yeah.
Apparently there's a few who are still not doing that, and they're getting ripped by their fan base.
Well, yeah. Well, I can certainly be more open about that than I can the company that I work for. But if you're a major league team and you're not sending your announcers on the road in 2022, that's on you. I mean, look, to give you an idea, and this might bore people to tears and some might find it interesting, but the biggest difference between the setup for a broadcasting crew that's involved with a team versus a broadcasting crew that's involved with a major network like an ESPN, like a Fox. And I've done both. When you travel with a team, you do just that. You're on the charter, so they're not paying extra for your flight. Yes, sometimes they make you pay for the hotel room and per diem. But I mean, my goodness, if you're nickel and diming that, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. Whereas it certainly costs more money for the networks because we don't travel with any team. Obviously, we are on our own, so everything is out of pocket, and the dollars and cents add up to a higher number there. But look, every announcer will tell you the same thing. It's an easier broadcast and a better broadcast when you're there. But the reality of the situation is we're just not for several of these baseball games. It's just a different climate right now.
Yeah.
Mike, I want to slide in here real quickly because I find this fascinating. When you broadcast a game remotely, are you getting the same television feed that we watch on say ESPN or Fox or whatever the case may be, or do you get different angles?
Well, we're both. We're getting the same feed, although sometimes there's that pesky second and a half delay. So you'll notice sometimes, and I'm sure people at home are going, how come it took them so long to realize that was a home run? Or how come it took them so long to realize that was a game-winning three-pointer? Because there is a little bit of a delay. We do have multiple angles. You can ask for 6 different angles. The problem is you only have 2 eyeballs. So most of us, what we're really doing is we're looking at what we call the program monitor, which is the same feed you see. And then we also have an all 9. So that way I can see the base runners when the ball's put in play. Oh. If you start throwing 4 other angles at me, it's just sensory overload at that point. So while it's a nice fancy look to say, look, we got 12 different angles here in the home studio, it doesn't do anything because you can't train your eyeballs to do all that.
All right, so you will be calling the South Carolina-Alabama series, at least 2 of those games, from afar. I'll be there in person, so if you need me to text you anything that...
Yeah, please do. Why don't you go ahead? I tell you what you could do. You could put your phone on speaker, and we'll patch that in as some extra crowd noise and get the Phil Kornblut perspective.
I can actually
It'll be like a mega cast.
The play-by-play. Bob Fulton back in the day, and I'm sure Bob told you this when he was teaching you how to be a broadcaster, that, he used to recreate games from afar.
I know it.
And so I can help you. I can do my own play-by-play, and then you can recreate it in your own version. So, for example, if there's a runner on third, less than 2 outs, there's a high fly ball to left field, and it's caught by Jones in left field. Here comes the throw at the plate. He's going to be safe. Now you can recreate that as you see fit.
I like this. And I'm glad you didn't say he flew out to right field,
please.
like an announcer you used to have a field day with.
Please.
Yeah, we will definitely call you if we need that help, kind of like Carl Spackle and Caddyshack. Just give us the phone number and have your phone on standby.
Pool in a pond. Pond be good for you,
Phil.
Yeah.
Natural spring would be good for you, Gordon.
Hey, Mike, while we're asking you questions about broadcasting.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds funny.
Last night, curious if you caught, and the rest of you guys, if you caught during the Grizzlies T-Wolves game, the jawbreaker call by Ian Eagle when John Morant had an explosive dunk at the end of the second quarter. Do you have stuff like that just rattling around in your head ready to go, or do you think that was just off the cuff, or that was impressive?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I like Ian Eagle. I've got to know him fairly well because we have the same agent, and he's certainly climbed the highest of levels. He does the Nets, he does NFL on Sunday, and he does NBA. I don't know if that was in the game notes or if that was actually one of his creations. A lot of times, when it's something that's that snazzy, it's something that was already out there. Like I kind of wonder if he's not the only one that thought of Jawbreaker, but But nonetheless, it was the perfect call. I mean, the call to me, and good calls, and Corn, you and I have talked about this a lot over the years. Good calls are not something you write down on the napkin like a catchy cliche, and then you just feel the need to inject it. Good calls are the authentic, natural reaction calls, calls that just kind of flow a little bit. It's one thing if you want to get creative, if somebody just clinches a national championship or something. Jim Nantz used to do that all the time with the Masters and Final Four and find that snazzy pun. But the best call of that from Ian Eagle was just the reaction, the natural, genuine reaction, and not feeling the need to pump it with an artificial, "Are you kidding me?" Like, okay, we got that. We've heard that a million times.
Yes. Can we
stop it already?
Can we ban that perhaps? Is it possible to ban that?
I think we can bury it. I think today we can bury "Are you kidding me?" for all time, because 20 years ago that was fresh.
I think I think at the Syracuse, I don't know the name of their journalism school. I mean, I know it's renowned and I know it's big time, but I think that's the first thing they teach you in broadcasting school at Syracuse. Can you say, "Are you kidding me?" and how do you say it?
I think the first thing they do is they make sure that they all sound alike with kind of a nasally sound, and they all look alike, and then they all act alike. They just come off a conveyor belt. God bless them. It's a great school, but I mean, it's just I can't tell them apart sometimes. But yes, that is definitely part of the curriculum.
All right, real quickly as we move on, South Carolina, Alabama, and I've pretty much declared the Gamecock season dead now after being swept at Auburn. Their pitching situation has just gotten worse as they've gone on through the season. They're trying to piece things together. And Chris and I have talked about this, and I don't know, you probably noticed it too. I mean, they've got their best pitcher pitching on a Sunday, which means more than likely they're either going to try and avoid being swept or they're trying to salvage a series. And they can't get out of that rotation, I guess, because of the timing of these games coming up, because there's not enough rest time in between for him.
Well, and as you mentioned, or you meant to mention, it's actually going to be Saturday because this series starts tomorrow.
Exactly. Right.
So when you go from Friday to Sunday, Thursday to Saturday, the big leagues, that's no big deal. You only get 4 days rest anyway between starts. But in the college game, for whatever reason, a lot of coaches, when they see that, they kind of flip out a little bit, and they want to make sure that they don't break up that extra day rest. They want to keep it going, so they'll shake things around. I'm not saying that's the case here with Mark Kingston and company and the way they're doing things. I mean, they were dealt a blow early on when they lost 2/3 of their rotation, and Bosnick was a guy that in a league where you've got aces all over the place on game one of a series, he would have been an awfully nice toy to have. And there's other teams that have had pitching injuries. It's not like this is only pertaining to South Carolina. But when you're last in almost every offensive category, you can't withstand those type of injuries the way other teams can. So for me, that's the big difference. Like this had to be a very healthy, clean year for a team that is somewhat outmanned at the plate relative to the other teams in this league. Now, look, I mean, I don't subscribe to just that the season's over and they're just going to tank it the rest of the way. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are playing not only for this year, but for next year. You're trying to see what you have going forward. You'd love the SEC tournament. There's a big difference between getting to Hoover and not. So they're not approaching it like, well, this is just over. Let's kick the can down the road for 12 games. Alabama's an interesting story in their own right, in that they were in the doldrums for a while. And that goes back to my point. If you look at the top teams in this league, and if you look at the bottom teams, you'll see a lot of household names in the bottom, like Ole Miss, Mississippi State. You'll see teams like Florida struggling, perennial top 10 teams. And then you'll see Tennessee lighting the world on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn is good. Bama's going to be a tournament team, in my estimation. Georgia's good. So everything is cyclical, and it's like this was the year that we're going to flip the script on the whole league, and we're going to make perennially great teams not so great, and perennially bad teams are going to have breakout years. And that's kind of, to me, the biggest story of the SEC in 2022.
What about Tennessee? You see any weakness in this team? Are they just going to roll through the SEC, the postseason, get right to Omaha, win the whole thing? Are they the odds-on favorite to win the whole thing?
I've got them next week, and I've had them once already this year, and they're going to be the favorite to win everything. Now, I remind you, it's been over 20 years since the number one team and the number one overall seed has won the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
So every time we think a team is invincible, we are reminded that's not the case. I don't think Tennessee's invincible. I've seen some pretty good teams in my day. They're having the most dominating SEC start to a season ever, period. More so than Vanderbilt a few years ago, more so than the 2000 Carolina team, and of course you and I are both familiar with. But that doesn't mean that they're a lock to win it. They're very good. And what they don't have is their biggest strength. What they don't have is a weakness. There's nothing they don't do well. Nothing. They hit with power. They run. They field. They pitch. They got a bullpen. They're deep. Like there's nothing that they're missing. So that yes, they will be the odds-on favorite. Doesn't mean they're going to win it all, but they are right now just a runaway freight train that. It just seems almost impossible that they're going to lose a series. They'll lose games. They're not going to, go undefeated the rest of the way. But it's going to be real hard to beat them 2 out of 3.
Mike, look forward to not seeing you tomorrow, not having lunch with you tomorrow. I will call DoorDash and have them deliver a couple of hot dogs and some fries to you tomorrow. So
that'd be great.
You feel like we're doing something for you.
You know what I missed? Do they still have the little Chinese food stand down the first base line?
They do.
Okay.
They do.
You tell that gentleman I'd like to buy whatever he's selling because that was always really good food.
I'll be happy. I'll be happy to send that your way through DoorDash. Okay, Mike. As always, we appreciate you. Have a great rest of the weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. See you guys.
All right, buddy.
Thanks,
you,
Mike.
I'm disappointed Mikey's not coming to town because I really was going to have him take us out for lunch.
I understand it. He can't throw his ESPN, for instance, under the bus, but it makes 0 sense not to send broadcasters to games. I gained a lot more respect from Mike and his crew and whomever else has to broadcast remotely because that is not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to do it in person. But then you stick them, as Mike laid out, he's got to watch several different monitors, and they're on delay. So you wonder, good grief, catch up with the game, guys. Well, they're not there. And ESPN and Fox and everybody else who won't send broadcasters to games should be ashamed of themselves. It's not the pandemic anymore. That's all about money, bottom line.
I agree. So there are 9 SEC teams right now who would be in the tournament, 9 of the 14. And, of course, 12 go. And you've got 4 teams who are tied with 6-12 records who are going to be battling for those last couple of spots, and South Carolina is in that group. It's going to be tough on them, but fun to watch.
The lady in black doesn't age. She just gets tougher. And NASCAR Throwback Weekend is when she likes to remind everyone just how they got here. Loud cars and louder colors, business up front and parties in the back. Over 70 years of history held together with one famous black stripe. Too tough to tame? I guess you'll have to find out. Darlington Throwback Weekend, May 6th through the 8th. Get your tickets at darlingtonraceway.com.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I love sports, and I've helped people for over 30 years. Contact me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com when the insurance company won't pay your claim or you have complicated issues. Some other business causes your business to lose money, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. When you lose a relative and find out you got cut out of a will or don't get what was promised. When you have serious injury, like from a wreck or mishap or on the job, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams. And you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to futurescholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. futurescholar.com.
Recruiting time here on Sports Talk, brought to you by Seawells. Hope you got a chance to get over for lunch today at Seawells. I can tell you without being there, it was delicious, just from history. And you too can enjoy the daily luncheon buffet at Seawells. I think this was a double roast beef week, was it not, Pat?
Absolutely. Bookended on Monday and Friday with beef. But tomorrow, Seawells is actually bringing out a little bit of a treat on top of what they already provide. Carved black oak ham and fried pork chops, both great, but teriyaki and hot chicken wings, which, I mean, right now I love wings everywhere I go. They're almost double in price because of inflation. And for $13, you can go stuff your face with wings. That's quite a deal.
Go stuff your face.
That's right. And then, of course, you can also get salad, all the fixings you can handle, and dessert.
Stuff your face. It's going to be my new go-to phrase. Hey, man, just go stuff your face. And if you need the very best in the catering business, of course, Seawells, they are the people to call, 803-771-7385. Let me tell you, they've become very, very, very busy in the catering world now that people are getting back and having weddings and birthday parties and business luncheons, corporate outings, awards, banquets. Seawells will handle it all. SeawellsCateringSC.com online, 803-771-7385 is the number. So we've touched on really the big stories. Clemson gets defensive end David David Ojibwe, 6'3", 235, out of Washington. Was at Clemson twice, including the spring game, and really likes the players, the coaches, likes the opportunity there, knowing that they're going to lose a bunch of defensive ends after this season. Clemson's got to beef up on defensive ends because of the guys they're going to be losing. And so he sees opportunity there if he goes in there and works hard, shows what he can do. He also had offers from Penn State, Maryland, North Carolina, Miami, Michigan, NC State, Virginia Tech, Washington, Purdue, Georgia Tech, and Duke. And he also visited Miami, Georgia, and Maryland. And he really likes Lemansky Hall. He really likes Nick Eason, all that together. He becomes the first defensive commitment for the class for Clemson of 23. Now, Coastal Carolina grad transfer, 6'6" point guard, Ibrahima Deba. Is that right? Ibrahima? Am I saying it right?
I'm sorry. I was trying to help you out on David Ojibwe. I was hoping to find his pronunciation, so I'm still scouring that. But, yeah, Ibrahima Deba.
Ibrahima
Deba.
Deba. Okay, 6'6". He commits to South Carolina after an official visit that concluded today. He also made an official visit to Ohio after putting his name in the transfer portal, John. Fourth transfer to commit to USC. And Coach Lamont Paris gives the Gamecocks 6 commitments in the 22 class. And I'm including the transfer from Evansville, Troy Boynton, who is coming as a walk-on. But, I mean, his opinion is once he shows he's healthy with his wrist, I think he's expecting to go on a scholarship. Deba is a native of Sweden, 4 seasons with the Shots, including a redshirt year in 2020. This season, 8 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists per game, 46% from the floor, 34% from three, 80% from the foul line. Led the Sun Belt Conference in assists this past season, averaging 5.6 points, averaging 5.6 per game. In a win over the Gamecocks in December, he had 5 points, had 6 rebounds. He handed out 4 assists. He's what you call a stat stuffer, isn't he?
Except for the points. Yeah, he's just not going to score. I mean, he will score. If you leave him wide open, he's obviously going to get to the lane and score. But he would much prefer to get everybody else involved over his own point at sort of the detriment of his own point total. But he can rebound. He can certainly pass the basketball. And he's a terrific defender. That may be the most unsung part of his game. He is a super defender. And Lamont Paris is going to love having him on that end of the floor.
At Coastal, he played in 90 games. He averaged 8 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 45% from the floor, 32% from three, and 79% from the line. I do like a point guard who can shoot free throws. I think that's key. Now, the Gamecocks probably are going to be heavily involved, maybe the front runners, maybe a lock for 6'4" Malachi Smith, the Southern Conference Player of the Year from UTC, who put his name in the draft today. He was earlier in the NBA. Did I say the draft? In the portal, who put his name in the portal today, and recently had his name in the NBA draft, but apparently he's not going to be involved with that. But he is going to be involved with another year of college. And he was tremendous this year, averaging about 20 points per game. And for his career, in 95 career games at Wright State and at UTC, 14.6 rebounds, 3 assists, a 47% career shooter, 38% from three, and 82% from the line. He's going to get a lot of recruiting attention, but you got to believe the Gamecocks are going to be right in the middle of it. And, of course, G.G. Jackson, if you weren't paying attention, he did commit to North Carolina today. That's recruiting. Back in a moment.
Someone will be right with you. The Point.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Russia and the United States have exchanged prisoners, with the Kremlin sending former Marine Trevor Reed, who was convicted of assaulting an officer, back to the U.S. in exchange for Russian pilot Konstantin Yadashenko, a Russian pilot who'd been serving 20 years for conspiracy to smuggle cocaine into the U.S. Reed's father, Joey Reed, says he's aware the U.S. government does not typically embrace such prisoner exchanges for fear that it might encourage foreign governments to take additional Americans as prisoners as a way to extract confessions.
We think it was just an unclear policy decision by this administration. Obviously, no administration wants to make deals or trades for people, but most of them do.
The move is surprising because it was done as Russia's war with Ukraine has driven relations with the U.S. to their lowest point in decades. Democrats appear headed for a repeat of last year's intra-party fracas over a massive tax and spending bill.
West Virginia Democrat Joe Manchin is hoping to compromise with liberals and pass a smaller tax and spend bill this year. His focus would be on a smaller hike in the corporate tax rate, closing loopholes, and in his words, making sure everyone pays their fair share. Manchin also says half of any revenues raised should go toward deficit reduction, something he says is the only way to reel in inflation. That's a disappointment to many Democrats, hoping for a larger bill, one that would allow them to achieve a host of liberal agenda items before the November midterm elections. Bob Agnew reporting.
A senior State Department official says the Biden administration is unlikely to invite the leaders of Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba to the upcoming Summit of the Americas. Mixed day on Wall Street as the Dow was up by 61 points. The NASDAQ dropped 1. The S&P 500 advanced by 8. More on these stories at townhall.com.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I'm asking about Prevnar 20 because there's a chance pneumococcal pneumonia could put me in the hospital. Age 65 or older, you may be at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com. I want to be able to keep my plans.
So I'm asking my doctor about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
Lawmakers eye affordability in a push for expanded Alzheimer's treatments.
Lawmakers say too many hurdles remain between Alzheimer's patients and emerging medications that could slow their deterioration due to both the high cost of new drugs and the limited response from Congress and regulatory agencies to expand access to them. Ohio Republican Congressman Ben Wenstrup says the high price tag of many new medications has been a deterrent for his colleagues in Congress to significantly increase access through federal programs. GOP Doctors Caucus member Neil Dunn of Florida says fast-tracked FDA approval is sometimes not enough, as the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has not always made those drugs readily available to the public. Bernie Bennett reporting.
A report by the Minnesota Department of Human Rights says the Minneapolis Police Department has engaged in a pattern of race discrimination for at least a decade, including stopping and arresting black people at a higher rate than white people. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cool this evening with low temps dipping down to 49. If you're enjoying today, you'll love tomorrow with a lower pollen count. A sky filled with sunshine and a high temperature of 78. Friday, we're up to 81 with more sun than clouds, while the weekend has a mix of sun and clouds and a 30% chance of showers. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Come on, hit it. Do it. You know you want to.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
And we got Newberry coach Todd Knight coming up in just a moment. Let me update a couple of things very quickly. Clemson now 16-3 on Wofford. Tigers had a run in the seventh. And
run rule time.
Yeah, and Wagner's hit another home run. So he's got 2 homers tonight. That should give him, I think, 19 on the season. I got to check. He might be among the nation's he is among the nation's leaders. He might be leading the nation.
And 8 since this weekend. I mean, he's on some kind of tear. No wonder he was the national player of the week, or at least one of them.
Yeah, Engel and Corbett also have homered. That's 4 homers for the Tigers. They have 14 hits on the day. Has not been a good day, to say the least, for Wofford. North Carolina beat Liberty 8-1. Western Carolina leading PC 3-2 in the 6th. George Mason over Virginia 6-4 in the 3rd. And Wake Forest all over Gardner-Webb 7-1 in the 3rd inning. With that, let's talk some football. We love to talk championship level football. We welcome in the South Atlantic Conference Coach of the Year, the coach of the conference champion playoff team from last year, the Newberry Wolves, Coach Todd Knight, as they wrapped up spring practice on Saturday with their spring game. Coach, welcome in. How are you?
Doing good, my friend. How's everything in Columbia?
Oh, rocking and rolling. You know Columbia, never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. So this spring, coming off a championship, notice any difference to previous springs?
Well, a little spring in our steps, so to speak. Kids were excited about it. You know, Phil, we hadn't had spring ball in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because of COVID, and you know, we played a season in the spring last year, so it's great to get back to some sense of normalcy. Living in the weight room in the off season, and then getting a chance to go outside and polish up a few things. I think the biggest thing for us coming out of spring, we sat quite a few kids that started for us in the fall and tried to develop some young kids that would help us down the road in the season. And I'm excited about the young talent that we've got coming out.
Did it feel good to kind of get back into the classroom? Because during a season, you're not so much in the classroom as you are, of course, you're planning for games and strategizing and all that. Spring practice is sort of like the time you and your assistants become the professors and you're teaching the game. Was that sort of what it was like for you, and how'd that feel?
It was good. Again, going back to some sense of normalcy, you know, slowing the pace down. You know, we went on a 3-day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, big film days, again, like you're saying, sitting in the classroom with the kids, going over it and over it, you know, trying to get the younger kids to pick up the scheme. I enjoyed the slower pace of it. And by the end of spring ball, you could really see it coming around.
How much of the team returns from last season?
A good many, actually. We had 6 starters on offense that did not even go through spring ball. So I'm excited in the fall when those kids plug back in. The top guy for us on that side of the ball is our 5th-year guy. He's in grad school now. Our quarterback, Dre Harris, has had a great career with us. Phil won a lot of ball games with this kid. And I'm trying to talk the president into bestowing a doctoral degree upon him so I can get another year out of it.
Why not? Well,
Hey,
and,
I'm trying
and
to. I'm still working the bugs out of that plan.
get yourself a little NIL action going. Get Jimmy Coggins to jump in there, a little NIL action for you, and you'll keep a bunch of them around for a long time.
I think I can talk him into that. But the grad school's a big thing for us. It's just started for us, and a lot of kids that are finishing up in May that's got that year left, instead of them transferring out now when it's arguably their best ball, now we're getting to keep them. So I think we're going to get to see, the fruits of our labor come back around with some kids like Drake.
So coming off such a successful campaign, how did your guys approach hitting the weight room and the conditioning in the off season? Did you see the hunger? Did you see the drive that maybe you saw last year when you had a chance to, get away from games and prepare? I mean, guys really wanting something and going after something. Did you see, I guess what I'm getting at here, did you see any signs of complacency among your group?
No, we approached it from the thought process. Hey, look, we got a bullseye on our back now. We've always been that team out there trying to prove it. Well, you proved it this year. Now everybody's going to come after us. Everybody's going to give us their best shot. So we better be ready. And I think the kids bought into that, and the work ethic and the attitude that I've seen. Hopefully we will be prepared for everybody's best shot, because I know we're going to get it.
Do you think you'll be the favorites in the league going in this year in 22?
I hope not.
Oh.
I hope not. I like being the underdog.
Well, who might supplant you?
Well, LR's always in the top 2 or 3, wing at top 2 or 3. I think it'll be one of us. Arguably, we won it outright, so we should be the favorite. But I would rather be picked a little lower so I can use it to my advantage.
Sure. Talking to Todd Knight, coach of the Newberry Wolves, champions of the South Atlantic Conference, won a playoff game last year. And if I remember correctly, you were right in your second round game up in you had to go up into the Maryland area to play up there, as I recall. And
yeah, you're right, Phil. The playoffs was tough for us. We had 2 back-to-back 9-hour road trips, one down to Pensacola, Florida, and then ended up in Bowie, Maryland. Had a shot at it in the last seconds of the game, but come up short. Field goal.
I remember the one down in Pensacola. You played in a stadium that opened up into the ocean, right? If I recall right.
That's right. That was a big deal with us preparing for it. I told the kicker to put it in the ocean, and he did. He did it for us.
Well, maybe as they continue to upgrade and renovate Setzler Field, they can turn it in such a way that it opens up into a lake or something right there on campus.
Well, we've got the opposite effect on our side. If you kick it too far, it ends up in the graveyard.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where Jimmy Coggins, speaking of Jimmy Coggins, that's where he tells me he wants to be planted and he wants to face the scoreboard so he can keep up with you guys for eternity. What about your facility upgrades and how that's coming along?
Well, we had a groundbreaking about a month ago, and plans are to start the second phase right after we finished up here in May. I think they're going to start, laying block and getting the foundation in on the new building on the visiting side, which will be locker rooms, coaches' offices, film rooms, that kind of thing. Hopefully that building will be completed during the season, and then we'll play with the stands this upcoming year. I don't think they can get the building and the stands done in time. So we're going to play with the stands originally now, tear that down after the season, and have the stands connected to that building for the following year.
Nice.
Coach, can you give us an idea?
It really is.
Yep.
That sounds great. At Setzler Field, always one of the great settings in the state of South Carolina. Todd Knight with us, the head football coach at Newberry College. And Coach, from sort of a movement standpoint within the South Atlantic Conference, Queens University announced earlier this week they are going up to Division I. You don't worry about them on the football field, but in their place, if you will, on the football side, Anderson University is adding football. From a Division II standpoint, can you sort of look at the landscape of that division and give us an idea about the movement up and down and how difficult it is to sort of maintain a conference and as the success that the South Atlantic Conference has had, going on 40, 50 years now?
Well, there's some really, really good teams in our league. Again, we've talked about, Wingate, LR, us, Carson Newman in the past has had a great tradition. We've added Erskine, Barton. I think Emory and Henry has a scheduling alliance with us now, and I think would one day like to join the conference. And from what I've been told, Anderson is in the pipeline to do a very similar type thing, have a scheduling alliance, and then hopefully down the road be a full-fledged member of the conference. And that's going to make our league stronger. It really is. I know they're going to do a good job over there. And just all in all, in our league, you feel like the talent pool is there, coaching from top to bottom. I feel like our league does a really good job. And somebody from our league's always going to make a deep run in the playoffs and have a shot at it every year.
South Carolina football was able to add a former Wingate player to its roster here recently. And from your perspective, looking at Division II, and I hate to use the term poaching, Coach, but I can't think of a better one to describe the transfer portal out of Division II up to Division I. How difficult is that to deal with on a year-in, year-out basis where you guys recruit, cultivate, and then perhaps see some of your top players want to play at the next level?
Well, I think a lot of the stigma with Division II, people kind of get it in their minds that, it's a whole different level. They can't play at Division I. There's a ton of kids in our league that could play Division I football. And there's several kids in our league every year that get an opportunity to play at the next level. And I'm talking about the NFL. And they loaded with talent. And what we've seen just from portal with us at Newberry, we've not seen a kid jump at this point, but it's going to happen sooner or later. We've had one kid in the portal off of last year's team, and I think he did a lateral move to a different Division II school, but I've not seen one come from ours and try to make that jump to an ACC or an SEC. But we do have kids on our team that are capable of that. We've dabbled in the portal a little bit. It's paid off for us. This off season, we got a bounce back kid from Maryland that's been to a couple of different places, but he's a really, really good DB, and it's going to be a shot in the arm for us. So really, we're not the big portal team. We're a high school developed team, and we like to take our talent from this state. We feel like there's enough here to win with, and we've proven that. But we're going to have to expand it and utilize the portal a little bit more than I thought we were going to at the beginning of it. And I just hope that it benefits us with kids looking for a home where they want to get more playing time. They want to be the starter. They want to be the star instead of a guy that, I'm at a D1, but I'm never getting to play.
Yeah. A couple more moments with Todd Knight from Newberry. So looking back over your team this spring, who were a couple of standouts offensively, defensively, maybe a couple of surprises on each side, and did you avoid major injury in your practices?
I think we came out of it pretty healthy offensive line-wise. That crowd's always going to suffer little bumps and bruises. Jawan Moy is a defensive tackle that had a great year for us last year. He's going to have a great year this upcoming year. He came out of spring as the leader of our defense. Big kid, transferred in, sat, and now it's paying off for him. This kid, he's all everything for us up front, and a heck of a ball player and just a great leader. Noah Mangum, offensive line was a kid that transferred in from Presbyterian. He was all conference over there. He came out of spring ball as our starting center. Those two kids on offense and defense have made a major impact for us coming out of spring ball, two that I'm really excited about. But we got a lot of kids coming back, Phil. Fifth-year grad receiver Bryson Woodruff, fifth-year grad starting offensive tackle Cody Barn. Our tailback, who was a redshirt freshman that went for over 1,200, is back. I feel like the best tight end in the league is back. A lot of kids offensively. All-conference inside linebacker A.J. Valentine's back. All-conference free safety Marcus Morgan, fifth-year grad school kid, is back. So I think we've got a lot of talent coming back. There's a little term in college football that it's extremely true. The trick to it is you got to get old and you got to stay old.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's taken us a little while to get old here in the last couple of years. And now with grad school, that's part of the trick, so to speak, in keeping us old.
Easier said than done. Last thing, I know you put your schedule out yesterday. In fact, I was going to go over it here while I'm looking for it. Any, as far as you know, high-level conversations taking place with your neighbors up US 76 there about getting together for a game here sometime before we're all dead?
I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I think with the new coaching staff over there, it could be a possibility. Coach and I go back a few years, so maybe we can pull it off down the road.
Well, that'd be nice.
That would be great.
It would. We got to get the administration on board. It's not. I don't think it's ever been a problem with the coach to coach type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
When Coach Spangler was over there, he was a great guy. He was always willing to play. I think it was just above both of us. And Coach Englehart, great guy. I know he'll do a great job over there. And hopefully, with the new leadership, maybe we can swing it.
You guys used to play Florida Tech, did you not?
We did, and that's where I got to know Coach Englehart.
Mm-hmm.
And before he got that job, he was sending me videos of his son, who was a really good quarterback in Florida. And we started the recruiting process, and then when he got that job, the videos stopped.
Gee, I wonder where he's going to be.
There's no question about that.
Last thing, you mentioned Coach Spangler. How do you feel about him joining the Furman program and getting a chance to get back out there and mess it up there on defense? I say mess it up, I mean in a good way.
Well, Coach Spangler's a heck of a ball coach. He always has been, and I'm a big fan of his. But I'm going to tell you what now, Phil. I got the best Spangler. Pierce Spangler, his son, coaches the running backs for me here at Newberry.
I got you.
So I've got a really good connection with Tommy and his family. His son does a heck of a job for us. I feel like I got the better coach.
Well, we appreciate you, sir, as always. You still got the hair flipping up at the back. You kind of let that thing go during the playoffs.
Ooh, it got out of hand. I might have to clean it up a little bit. It's getting hot.
You and Jamie Chadwell with the hair thing going, man. I tell you, but Jamie cut his.
Hey, if I can win as many as he has, I'll grow it down to my ankle.
All right, sir. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Coach.
August to be here before you know it. So they open up September 4th at Barton, then home to North Greenville, then the Bishop's Trophy. That'll be at Newberry against Lenore Ryan. That'll be big game there. Tusculum on the road, at Mars Hill, at Virginia Wise, then home to Catawba, home to Carson Newman, that's homecoming, at Erskine, Wingate on November 6th, and then at Limestone. Wait a minute, Corn. I'm an idiot. First mistake of the night, Pat. I've just read you the 2021 Newberry football schedule.
I bet they win 10 games.
Let's start over, idiot. September 3rd. Thought that then I noticed they already had playoffs written into their schedule. I said, that's a confident bunch.
At Newberry, no doubt.
Now, let's try this again. September 3rd, home to Allen, then at North Greenville, then at Emory and Henry, then home to Erskine, then at Carson Newman, then home to Barton, then at Catawba, at Lenore Ryan, home to Limestone, at Wingate, and home to Mars Hill. That makes a lot more sense than what I was just doing. I forgot to flip to the 22 schedule.
The most encouraging thing I heard from Todd Knight, though, maybe there's a glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
That somewhere down the line, PC and Newberry can get back together and resurrect the second oldest rivalry in our state and play for the Bronze Derby again, because the fact that PC got too darn big for its britches and wouldn't play Newberry anymore is a travesty. And those two schools need to play again.
Well, I can tell you this, those britches have shrunk.
There's no doubt
those
there.
britches have shrunk. They need to look down and see the size of their britches and realize that they're smaller than Newberry britches. They should be begging Newberry to play them. They really should. We'll be right back.
Score a touchdown with Founders Federal Credit Union. With services like Founders Online and the Founders app, you'll enjoy all the perks of a big bank with local personalized service. Not a member? Joining Founders Federal Credit Union is easy. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our 37 convenient locations to see if you qualify for membership. Relax with Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
The lady in black doesn't age. She just gets tougher. And NASCAR Throwback Weekend is when she likes to remind everyone just how they got here. Loud cars and louder colors, business up front and parties in the back. Over 70 years of history held together with one famous black stripe. Too tough to tame? I guess you'll have to find out. Darlington Throwback Weekend, May 6th through the 8th. Get your tickets at darlingtonraceway.com.
Hi, this is Phil Kornblut of Sports Talk here with Major Billy Downer of the Department of Natural Resources. What words of wisdom do you have for those hitting the water this summer?
Phil, collisions can be prevented easily if every vessel operator fulfills three major responsibilities. One, practice good seamanship. It's the responsibility of every boat or PWC operator to take all necessary action to avoid a collision. Two, keep a proper lookout. Failing to keep a sharp lookout is the most common cause of boating collisions. And finally, maintain a safe speed. Remember, boat safe, boat smart.
All right, back on Sports Talk. Here is a little bit of G.G. Jackson, who committed to North Carolina today. It's important that you hear what he had to say. And here he is talking to the media after his announcement that he's going to North Carolina. Here are some of his words talking about, first of all, how it feels to get this decision off his back.
I can say I feel a few pounds lighter. This decision has definitely been weighing on me mentally. And I just want to thank God for this opportunity.
What was it at the end that led you to North Carolina?
I asked God for a couple of signs way back before the March Madness tournament start. One of the signs he gave me, they kept showing me as their number one priority, that we want G.G. Jackson, and that stuck out with me a lot. And them coming down from the Final Four to watch me practice, that was pretty big for me. And then they made the national championship. And me and Coach Davis, we have a really good relationship, and Coach Lebo. We can call and talk about anything. It's not just always basketball. So that's what stuck out.
What did they lay out for you about how you would fit in with their system and what they see from you moving forward?
With their system, I feel like their play style that they show, I can be very versatile. So I feel like I can play within their system, and they telling me how I can be like the first option with them. So that everything sounds good with them.
How close was it with? You may not want to answer this, but if Frank were still in Columbia, what kind of hat would you be wearing right now?
I don't know if I want to answer that. I don't want to make nobody mad, but Coach Martin, he's definitely my guy. He's still showing love, even though I'm not going to UMass, and unfortunately South Carolina let him go. But that's still my guy.
When did they kind of take the lead? That you knew? When was it? That trip when they came down here, or when did they kind of take over and be your top choice?
I want to say when South Carolina let go of Coach Martin, I feel like that shifted things, and I knew exactly where I wanted to go. And then I looked back over like all the pros and cons with going to North Carolina. So that's about it.
Did you ever actually commit to Coach Martin to become a Gamecock?
No, sir. But me and my mom and my dad, we were talking about it heavily.
What are the one or two things that really put North Carolina on top for you?
For one, I want to play for an African American coach. So to see him make it to the national championship in his first year, that really stuck out to me. And that goes to show that he knows what he's doing from a coaching standpoint.
Okay, so why is it so important for you to play for an African American coach?
Throughout the years, the likes of Coach Thompson with Georgetown, I feel like me and Coach Huber, we can do a similar thing from how he had Mr. Ewing from Georgetown, and I feel like me and Coach Davis can do the same thing.
Is that something that you and your parents talked about during this whole process while you were in?
Not really. It was more of something on my end.
Has this process been easy for you? Because you've had your choice of where you could go, and obviously you had some blue bloods that wanted you really badly. Has it been easier? Has it been hard? What's it been like for you?
It's definitely being hard. A little kid from Cassett, South Carolina, moving to a big city in Columbia. So it was definitely a lot of pressure on me. I didn't really want to show it when it first started happening, but I just prayed to God every night. He directed me in the right path.
and having watching North Carolina how they used Manic last year, is that something that they'll kind of in that mold when you get there at the 4, or watching them how they used him? Is that something they can use you inside outside?
Well, I definitely got to get my jump shot more consistent like his to be in his spot. But definitely the guys, the likes of him, Leaky Black as well. So I feel like they'll utilize me in the best way that they can.
Is reclassifying?
G.G. Jackson not reclassifying, staying in the 23 class, and not sure where he'll be next year, either Ridgeview or Oak Hill Academy. Of course, his coach, Yerrick Stoneman, is going to Oak Hill Academy to be the new coach there. So he's undecided about that. By the way, Oak Hill is slated to come to play in the Chick-fil-A Classic at Ridgeview in December. Back in a moment.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cool this evening with low temps dipping down to 49. If you're enjoying today, you'll love tomorrow with a lower pollen count. A sky filled with sunshine and a high temperature of 78. Friday, we're up to 81 with more sun than clouds, while the weekend has a mix of sun and clouds and a 30% chance of showers. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
Hello, I'm Carolyn Sawyer, an entrepreneur and caregiver. Part of taking care of your health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is serious and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. Up to 90% of South Carolinians who have it don't know they have it. Visit inittogethersc.org. Take an online test to find out your risk and join a diabetes prevention program. This message brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of SC.
You aren't eating the healthy food you want to eat. Between work, family life, and the general day-to-day events, there just isn't time to do more than hit the drive-thru on your way home. And fast food always seems to leave you feeling lethargic and just missing out on the vital nutrition you get from fresh fruits and vegetables. That's why Balance of Nature exists. Balance of Nature was developed to help combat the unhealthy lifestyle that seems to permeate throughout America. Balance of Nature takes a nutritious blend of 31 different fruits and vegetables, puts them through an advanced cold vacuum process, and delivers them right to your door. You can get all the recommended servings of fruits and vegetables into your diet in just a few seconds without worrying about buying, storing, and preparing them. Eat better and feel better by going to balanceofnature.com, and be sure to get 35% off your first preferred order by using discount code BALANCE.
When it comes to firearms, ammunition, and accessories, some things are changing, while fortunately some things haven't changed a bit. I'm talking all about Shooter's Choice in West Columbia. What has never and will never change is the customer service. Top-notch with the staff that has decades of experience in the firearms industry. This staff actually hunts and shoots regularly. For over 30 years, Shooter's Choice has never lost that hometown feel and never felt like shopping at some big box store. What has changed? Well, technology. If you'd rather spend your money on firearms than gas, go online to SportsTalkSC.com and check out a great website that's easy to navigate 24/7. Be the first to get items as they are received at the store. Be the first to get that newest production model ordered before it even enters the retail store. Come pick it up at your convenience. Sign up for notifications of new products and special inventory. It's all at ShootersChoiceSC.com. So come on in and see the team at Shooter's Choice, 944 Sunset Boulevard, or visit online. Either way, you'll see what I'm talking about. Make your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
Are you looking for free checking and free savings? Dave Ramsey here, telling you to go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank that's so big they lose the ability to treat you like a human being. At Palmetto Citizens, you're not just a number, you're a member. Join today at any of their 14 locations or at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Honey, did you see the gas prices as you drove home from work today?
I did. They are getting ridiculous.
Good thing for us, we don't have to go anywhere to get our medicine.
That's right. Ever since we switched to True Pharmacy, they have delivered all of our medicine for free.
Not only that, every time we buy anything at True Pharmacy, including our prescriptions, we get loyalty points.
Aren't those great? We get to use our loyalty points to buy other over-the-counter items.
Yes, this month I used them for our multivitamins.
I sure am glad we switched to True Pharmacy. True Pharmacy, 2 locations to serve you, West Columbia and Columbia on Divine.
You know what? I get asked every now and then, Kev, When you say my guy, do you really have a my guy at Palmetto Exterminators? Well, I really do. Ron Byers is my guy. Do you realize I've been a customer of Palmetto Exterminators for 20 years this summer? That's over the course of 3 homes, longer than my kids have been around. I'm loyal to Palmetto Exterminators for several reasons. First, they do a phenomenal job with pest control for a very fair price. It's just not a concern around my home. They take care of everything from regular visits to termite inspection, mosquito care. This is a company that's been around for more than 60 years serving the Midlands. When they come around, they're clean, they're courteous, and they're on time. Look, it's not just me. When it comes to things like those pesky mosquitoes, Palmetto Exterminators voted best of Columbia in Columbia Metropolitan for their mosquito control. I could have told you that before anyone even voted. What else can you possibly need from your pest control company? If you're looking for someone to help you, look no further than my guy, Ron Byers, Palmetto Exterminators. Online, it's palmettoexterminators.net, or call them 254-5833, 254-5833.
Update a couple of quick things. Then Greg DePalma joins us from Our Lads. Clemson Wofford 17-4. Tigers 17 hits, 17 runs. They have scored in every inning except the 6th, and they have hit 5 home runs, 2 by Wagner, and Lewis has hit a home run as a pinch hitter, and Corbett's got 1, and Ingles got 1. So Tigers are cruising there. And another recruiting note: USC makes the top 5 with defensive tackle Joel Starlings, along with Virginia, Oklahoma, West Virginia, and North Carolina. He has an official visit set to USC for October 22nd. He's out of Richmond, Virginia. Recruiting, just like the NFL draft. Scouting. It never ends. And those who love the NFL draft, beginning tomorrow, it's 3 days of what? Christmas,
Bliss.
Hanukkah,
Bliss.
New Year's, Kwanzaa, Thanksgiving, all rolled into how many hours is that? 72 hours, I guess, of complete enjoyment. One of the best in the business from one of the great organizations that cover the draft and the NFL, ourlads.com. Greg DePalma joins us here on Sports Talk. Greg, how are you, sir? Great to have you with us.
Nice to be here, Phil. You turned the tables on me. I'm used to interviewing you.
Well, I'm sure it's better when you're interviewing me than me interviewing you.
Okay.
But we're going to get through
We'll see about that.
We're going to get through it one way or another. We thank you so much. I've always loved Our Lads, going back many, many years, because we've had folks on from Our Lads over the years, including, I believe you've been with us before, but y'all do such a good job of breaking down the NFL draft and NFL draft charts and things like that. Really, really enjoy it. Before we ask you precisely your thoughts on the Panthers, what's your overview on the draft? And here at the 11th hour, so to speak, what are you hearing out there, and any major moves up or down the board there, so to speak?
Well, the big story seems to be a change at the top over the last few days, where apparently Aiden Hutchinson, who most people pegged for Jacksonville as the first pick, but now all of a sudden, you know, the rising fast defensive end from Georgia, Trayvon Walker, who really came out of nowhere this past year. I mean, he just looks awesome on tape. He does a lot of things that players at the position that he plays just not capable of doing. Just a great athlete, and obviously played on the best defense in the land, the national champion Georgia Bulldogs. And there's talk now that he might be the number 1 pick. Matter of fact, Vegas, if you're into wagering on the NFL draft, which I don't, but if you're into wagering on the NFL draft, Trayvon Walker right now is the odds-on favorite to be the number 1 pick. But I still have Hutchinson on my draft board. I don't believe in these late last-minute changes of decision. I think Jacksonville kind of knew all along what they were going to be doing, and I believe Hutchinson has been their choice about 3 or 4 weeks ago, especially when I talked to John Oser, who's the editor of the Jacksonville Jaguars website. But you never know. I mean, Walker's just such a great player. He's a risk compared to Hutchinson, but he's got a higher ceiling.
Why do you like Hutchinson so much from your standpoint?
He's again comparing him to Walker. He has more proof on tape. You know, he's somebody that has done it for at least a few years. I mean, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. He's also a very great defender against the run, equally against the pass. Career numbers, he got like over 150 tackles, over 18 sacks for his career. So he's got a better resume than Walker. As I mentioned, though, Walker has really just 1 year behind him of tape, but he's a 5-star recruit. So it's not like he came from absolutely nowhere. But Hutchinson has elite size. He's 6'6", 265. Even though Walker is pretty close to what Hutchinson is, but I also like Hutchinson's length. His size and his length. It's elite, and it's something that doesn't come along very often at that position. That's why I think he's a player that you don't want to pass on, because he's more of a safe, solid, all-around ball player that if you pick him, you know that he's going to be a star player performer for you for many years.
You guys are high on the Clemson corner, Andrew Booth Jr. Of course, I think most everybody pretty high on him. You've got him as your number 4 corner. So he'll come off the board pretty early, I'm sure. You got a feel for where he might fall at this particular point?
I actually have him going to potentially the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills, if you take a look towards the bottom end of the first round or towards the middle to the bottom end of the first round, that's pretty much where I have them going. I think if you look at the cornerback position and the teams that are looking for corners as we start getting later in the first round, I think it really does begin at Buffalo at 25. Because once you get past the top 3, McDuffie, more than likely, I think he could go as early as 11, 12, 13. I haven't pegged at Houston at number 13. But then after that, I don't think you're going to see a corner picked until potentially 25 at Buffalo. So I'd start at Buffalo at 25. And then you probably go right after that to Kansas City at 29 and Cincinnati at 31. I think those 3 teams, you're probably going to see both Booth and Elam taken off the board. It just depends on whether or not Buffalo goes with someone like Booth or Elam. And I got to tell you right now, Booth and Elam are kind of neck and neck. But I have Booth going to Buffalo over Elam.
You have from South Carolina in your top 20 of your edge rushers, Kingsley Inabare. We know him as JJ Inabare from around here at South Carolina. And you've got him number 20 ranked among your edge rushers. So if you're number 20 among edge rushers with this particular draft, where do you think he might fall?
Well, the problem is it's such a deep class of edge rushers. So this is going to be the trick. I mean, he's got the capability of landing in the second round, but I think because it's such a deep class, I don't think he's going to go until the 3rd round. He could go as late as the 4th. But I think the problem is if you take a look at all the edge rushers, especially at the RLEDs depth chart for edge rushers, you have probably about, I think, 15, 20 other edge rushers that could go anywhere in the top 4 rounds that I think a lot of teams are going to be happy to get their hands on. And Barre is just one of them. But again, I think the one thing that he has that I think is that might get him drafted a little bit earlier. I think there are teams that view him as somebody that can go either as a 4-3 edge rusher or a 3-4 outside linebacker. So I think that versatility gives him a shot to maybe get drafted a little bit higher.
How do you grade overall this quarterback group? You guys list Kenny Pickett first, followed by Matt Corral, and then Malik Willis and Sam Howell and Desmond Ridder. That's your top 5. And in your 1 through 10 as a group, how do you view this overall class of quarterbacks compared to some recent classes?
Not very good. Matter of fact, if you really look at it, our lads, we grade Pickett as the 25th best player in the entire draft. And he's top quarterback. So, and I believe he's the only quarterback we have projected talent prospect-wise in our rankings in the first round. So, but that does not mean that that's where Pickett's going to go, as we all know. And even when we have really strong quarterback classes, the quarterbacks always wind up going earlier than we would project them to. But it looks like, and maybe this is a perfect segue into Carolina, just from my outside point of view, obviously you guys are there locally, I just happen to think, and maybe other people agree with me of why anybody who has Pickett going to Carolina would agree that if Carolina makes the pick, then it's one of two things. If Pickett goes, which I think is going to happen, okay, they've got their quarterback. They don't have a second-round pick. They don't have another pick into the third round, so they got to go out and get somebody. But if they do not take Pickett, then there has to be a trade in the works. There absolutely has to be a trade that we're not thinking of or we don't know about, whether it's Baker Mayfield or Jimmy G. But I can't see them not taking Kenny Pickett unless they have a trade in the works for another quarterback, because there's just no way in my mind that I see the Carolina Panthers going with Sam Darnold week 1 this season.
You and a whole bunch of others. Greg DePalma from Our Lads is with us. Let me ask you this. Speaking of quarterbacks, since this class is so weak, so you could have, as part of the class next year, you could have DJ Uiagalelei from Clemson, and you could have Spencer Rattler from South Carolina. Have you taken a good enough look at those two guys to get a feel for, if they have, great years, what they could look like in next year's draft?
Well, next year it's going to be all about C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. Matter of fact, that's where a lot of the talk is going to come from general managers when they have to decide, all right, do we maybe take a quarterback earlier than we're supposed to? And this includes Carolina, Atlanta, Pittsburgh. Do we take one of these guys, Pickett or Willis, earlier than we really believe they deserve to go? Or do we try to play the patient game and go after Stroud and Young next year? Now, we don't know if they're both going to come out. We just project that they both will, because they're going to be first and second in the draft next year if they come out. So that's going to be the trick. I think general managers that have safer employment situations, I think they probably opt to wait until next year. But if somebody has a little bit more of a risk where they feel like, you know what, we got to get somebody now. I only have maybe 2 or 3 years. I got to develop somebody as soon as possible. Then I can see them saying, all right, let's go after Pickett. Let's go after Willis. But next year you have Young, you have Stroud, even Keaton Slovis from USC potentially comes out. Grayson McCall, I love him, from Coastal Carolina, may come out. So when we talk about someone like Rattler, last year, I think, like a lot of people, we thought he was on a path where we could see him as one of the top quarterbacks when he decided to come out. But after what happened last year, he's going to have a hard time getting back into the good graces of the scouts. But he has a chance, and now it's going to be up to him. He's got the talent. We all know that. But I think because both of those superstar quarterbacks will come out more than likely next year, I doubt he's going to be able to change our minds that quickly one season at South Carolina, where he might be better off coming out in 2024, giving the scouts 2 more years of game tape, and then maybe being a high draft pick in 2024, which was originally his path before last season.
Greg DePalma from OurLads.com with us here tonight, getting ready for the NFL draft, which starts tomorrow. And Greg, I'll agree with you and Phil. No one's going to mistake this quarterback draft with the 1983 draft, when you had Elway and Marino and Jim Kelly and all those guys. So it's never going to be confused with probably the best ever quarterback draft. But that being said, if you are in desperate need of a quarterback, as it appears the Panthers are, you talked about trade possibilities. Would you be better served, though, maybe trading out of the first round and hoping to be able to land one in the second or third and stockpiling draft picks, because this quarterback draft in particular is not all that salty?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, when you take a look at teams like Carolina that have a lot of needs and no second-round draft pick, it's just a no-brainer that when we kind of think about, all right, which team is the most likely to trade out of their position to grab more draft picks, Carolina is definitely on top of the list. So I think the only thing that I guess has confused us a little bit has just been what we hear from Carolina and from Scott Fitterer as far as, well, is this really going? It just seems from what we hear, they are not interested in trading down. If they get the right guy, they're going to take him at 6. And I think that because of that, Kenny Pickett makes just too much sense, as I mentioned before, because I just can't see Carolina, if they stay at 6, not taking a quarterback. But yes, to answer your question, I think it makes a lot of sense. The only problem is who would move up to 6 And I don't know if there's any team. See, Carolina's going to move out of there because if they move out of there, that means they're not as impressed with Pickett as maybe we're led to believe. And I can see that being the case. But then again, who's going to want to move up to take a quarterback like Pickett or Willis? Because if Carolina feels the way that they do, well, then most of the other general managers feel the same way. So I think if this was a draft where we had a lot of stud quarterbacks, that'd be a little bit different. I just think it's going to be a lot harder to trade down with another team because I think you've got several other teams that are looking to trade down as well. And like I said, I just don't think that there's a team out there that's willing to move up to 6 to take one of these quarterbacks. And I also don't think there's another player out there that somebody would be willing to trade up and grab as well. Now, I think that's more likely than a quarterback. I think if you hear Carolina makes a trade with a team and moves down 3 spots, 5 spots, 7 spots, I think it's for another position. Could be for an offensive lineman, especially with the possibility of edge rushers going in the top 3 of the draft, and maybe all of a sudden a couple of those tackles because you have 3 of them available after that. You have Krosh, you've got Ekwegnu, and then, of course, you have Neal. So maybe a team desperate for an offensive lineman says, you know what, I want to grab one of those guys at 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and Carolina can move down 4 spots, 5 spots, and then you can go ahead and at least grab something in return, including, like you said, an additional second-round pick, where you can grab a quarterback at number 2 with the second at round 2, where you're taking a look at quarterbacks like Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, and I'm even a favorite of Carson Strong, even though I don't think he's going to be available. I think he'll be available in round 3 or round 4, and Matt Corral as well. So I agree. I think Carolina is definitely at the top of the list when it comes to teams that you would think would want to move down if they could.
Greg, they clearly have many more warts other than just under center. Is there any scenario where they could go get a playmaker like Deebo Samuel, who clearly wants out of San Francisco? Do they have enough draft capital, though, to make a move for him without including Christian McCaffrey in the mix?
No, because they're not. Deebo Samuel is not worthy of a first-round draft pick unless you have a late first-rounder. So Carolina's not going to give him a first-rounder this year. They're not going to give him a first-rounder next year. And San Francisco, so you'd say, okay, well, where's your second-round pick? Well, as we know, Carolina doesn't have one. So, like you said, you would probably have to take Christian McCaffrey, and I don't know if that sounds like the kind of deal that Carolina wants to make. You tell me. I mean, you're down there. But, the wildest trade scenario I actually started to think of, which I know is not going to happen, was, well, what about Arizona? I mean, what if Carolina what if Arizona was actually really, really concerned about Kyler Murray? Wow. We don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they're a lot more concerned than we can think of. Well, would Carolina be able to make a trade with Arizona because they have Christian McCaffrey, and then they could swap first-round draft picks? But that's not going to happen. That's just a wild kind of thing that we had a lot of wild trades go on just a few months ago. They've kind of calmed down a little bit, but to answer your question, I just don't think that makes sense as a trade partner. I think the team that would make more sense is like the Jets, because the Jets have multiple early second-round draft picks, and the Jets have a lot more draft capital.
I just always love to say the Jets are on the clock because they are always on the clock. We're on the clock, too. We're running out of clock. We thank you. Fantastic. I want to tell everybody about Our Lads. OurLads.com, not just for the draft and your analysis and your scouting, but your stuff on colleges and depth charts and rosters and schedules. It's so well done. I want to tell everybody about it once again. OurLads.com, OurLads.com, started by a gentleman out in Iowa about 40-something years ago, right? And they're still going strong.
That's right. Dan Shonka is in charge of the company now, former NFL scout. So things are still ramping up, and they're getting bigger and better than ever. And by the way, I'm not, of course, anywhere near the expert on the draft as Dan Shonka is. But we still, of course, we have our interviews on my YouTube channel at Prime Sports Network. And so we do a lot of college football and NFL talk on that channel. And I also want to let the listeners know, and you can determine any way that you want to give this away. But we're going to give away either a hard copy of the NFL draft guide that we have available from Our Lads, or they can choose a PDF. Now, the reason that they might want to choose the PDF is because if they want to ensure that they get this before the draft, or we can email them a PDF as soon as you come up with somebody that you want to give this away to on the air, either today or early tomorrow. If they say, well, I don't care, I want the hard copy, I'm willing to wait until after the draft, then we'll send them one of our hard copy draft guides. So we'll go ahead and give one of those away whichever way that you see fit.
Well, thank you. We'll see if we can
awesome.
select a lucky listener. Greg, always a pleasure. I look forward to talking to you again during the football season, and we'll have you back with us again, too. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
You got it, Phil. Take care.
Take care, my man. Greg DePalma. And check out his YouTube channel. He does some great interviews with people. I even pop on there from time to time when he wants to talk about the Gamecocks and the Tigers. I know that drags it down some, but otherwise it's lifted up by many others. And they do. Take a look at that website, and you want to bookmark it because it's very, very useful. We are running way late, way long, way late. We'll be back.
Life. It has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
The lady in black doesn't age. She just gets tougher. And NASCAR Throwback Weekend is when she likes to remind everyone just how they got here. Loud cars and louder colors, business up front and parties in the back. Over 70 years of history held together with one famous black stripe. Too tough to tame? I guess you'll have to find out. Darlington Throwback Weekend, May 6th through the 8th. Get your tickets at darlingtonraceway.com.
All right, thanks to Greg DePalma for being with us. Clemson beat Wofford 17-4. That's gone final. And Presbyterian is leading Western Carolina 6-5 in the bottom of the seventh. We haven't even had a chance to breathe on our phone lines tonight. Let's go to Keith in Camden. Guys have been holding for a long time. I apologize. We kind of overbooked tonight. We had a lot going on. We'll get to the David Tepper tomorrow. I think it's good enough to run tomorrow. Is it not, Chris? I think it's good stuff we can
It is.
run
And he
tomorrow.
actually said some very, very good stuff. It was pressed hard on the Rock Hill situation and wouldn't answer it, as every good politician and billionaire does.
Keith, thank you for waiting. Go right ahead, sir.
No problem, Phil.
Oh, by the way, can I offer you a copy?
I'll take the hard copy.
Oh, you want the hard copy?
Yeah.
Well, if you'll hold on, we got to get your mailing address, and we'll send that to you. Hold on when we're done, and Pat will get that from you. Okay, thank you.
I will. But quick comment. This is no reflection on Parrish or the young man that's coming into the program, or nothing to do with the gentleman's decision today to go to North Carolina. But when you step back and you look at where Martin was, and you look at what he had coming in, and then you look at where we're at and what we've got coming in, I mean, it's almost like we've taken 3-year step back. It's just so frustrating. But we'll talk about that on tomorrow night's show. I know y'all out of time, but we're just not in a good place basketball-wise.
It's a rebuild, and you know what? It'll be a rebuild after this coming season, because everybody you're bringing in from the portal, John, pretty much is only going to be there 1 year. So you're going to have to re-recruit over them, either from high schools or the portal, John, once again. So it's constant rebuilding and re-recruiting, which I can't believe any coach wants to be in that situation where you've always got to be going back and filling holes. One or two, but filling 7 or 8 holes every offseason is just a lot to ask.
Well, just remember this: when we get to basketball next season, all this points back to Mr. Ray Tanner. And last comment, he's going to be dealing with the same thing at the end of the year. 10 years now without a competitive, good baseball team. And he's going to have to address that here shortly. I wish somebody else could. Love the show, but I'll hold on.
All right, hang on.
Thanks,
and
Keith.
we'll get that to you. Real quick, want to mention that the USC women's golf team, ranked number 3, going to be the top seed at the regional in Tallahassee beginning on May the 9th. So they were selected for that. And also the College of Charleston. Let's see, I'm going by the releases here. College of Charleston is also going to Tallahassee to play in that regional. Pat, you got something real quick here? Looks like you're antsy to say something.
Just real fast. Remember, Gigi doesn't come out of high school for another year. What if Lamont Paris and the Gamecocks have a spectacular season in 22-23? You never know. Maybe he could flip-flop. Just saying.
Well, you can always, but I don't get the feeling he wants to. You think North Carolina's not going to have a great year next year?
They're going to win the national championship next year. By the way, all the David Tepper stuff's up on our website if you want to listen to him tonight, SportsTalkSC.com.
There's a bunch on the website. Oh, the Clemson women, the 6th seed at the Stillwater Regional. Want to get that in. It's important, Mike Morgan. Have a great night.
Morning, afternoon, and evening. Columbia's local talk radio experience. 107 The Point.
Make thepointradio.com.
The Point. The Point.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Leaders of the private government that runs Walt Disney World in Florida say they are still confused about the law designed to dissolve the government next year.
The administrator of the Reedy Creek Improvement District, Donald Greer, says the change could delay expansion of a solar power project. The Union for the district's firefighters is worried about what the dissolution might mean for members' lifetime benefits. The move came in a Republican push to punish Disney over its opposition to another new law, barring instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation in early grade school, which critics call Don't Say Gay. Greer says the board could not provide clear answers on what's ahead because, in his words, we don't know where we're going. I'm Ed Donahue.
The U.S. and Russia have exchanged prisoners. Russia swapped Trevor Reed, a former Marine who was accused of assaulting a Russian officer, in exchange for Konstantin Yadoshenko, a Russian pilot who'd been serving 20 years for conspiracy to smuggle cocaine into the U.S. Correspondent Eric Tucker reports 2 other Americans are still being held in Russia.
We have Brittany Griner, who is a star WNBA player. She was arrested in mid-February after her bag was searched, and there was a residue of cannabis that was found, according to Russian authorities. We have another individual, a Michigan corporate security executive by the name of Paul Whalen, who is serving a very lengthy prison sentence on espionage-related charges that his family says are totally bogus.
A federal judge in Louisiana has ordered the Biden administration to stop phasing out Title 42, a public health rule that allows the expulsion of migrants without an opportunity to seek asylum. On Wall Street, the Dow by 61 points, the Nasdaq dropping 1, the S&P 500 advancing by